Harihi Om. Om Gananan Tva Ganapati Gumhavamahe Kavyo Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspatha Anashunmannotibhi Sedasadanam Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebirvajinivati Dinamamitrayavato Ganeshaya Namaha Saraswatyai Namaha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Jnananandamayam Devam Nirmalarspatikatrudhim Adharam Sarvavidyanam Hayagrivamupaasmahe Yasyadvarada Vakradhyaya Parishatya Parashatham Vignam Nignam Ti Satatham Vishwashemam Tamashraye Gurud Brahma Gurud Vishnu Gurud Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Sarvalokanam Bisaje Bhavaroginaha Nidaye Sarva Vidyanam Sri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Tat Sat Sri Dakshinamurtaye Padarachana Samarpanayami Om Sahanao Bhavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Om Partaya Pratibodhitham Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitham Purana Muninam Madhya Mahabharate Advaitam Ratavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatham Anushandhadami Bhagavad Gita Bhavad Veshinim Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Krishna Yarpanamastu Anyada Sharanam Nasti. Sai Ram, Namaskar, Vandanam, and welcome to week 4 in the key teachings of the Mahabharata. Okay, not so much the story, but the lessons that we can learn from the principal characters. So there are many, many characters, but I've chosen the most significant ones who've contributed both from a dharmic sense and from an adharmic sense, because you can learn from dharma what you should inculcate and uphold and practice. And you can learn from adharmic practices and adharmic examples what not to do and what not to, engage in. Right? So the aim, as I always say every week, I repeat, so people are aligned to the aim of, me running these courses. It's not to teach you how to chant. It's not to retell the story that has been told perhaps a million times, but to engender and inculcate an understanding of this magnificent work. That's why I said to you last week, it is called Ithihasas. There are two Ithihasas, right? One is Ramayana, the seventh avatar of Lord Vishnu, Rama avatar, and the eighth one is Lord Krishna. So they're fundamentally significant. And they're called Ithihasas, mean Itihihasam. This is how it happened then, So There's no question about whether it actually happened or not. But the point is, even if there are people out there who say, not enough evidence to show that these things actually happened, well, you don't have to know whether they happened or not, but what is the lesson that you can learn, right? You learn physics like this in science, you learn so many things in this, geography, all these circular subjects you learn, but you accept it, right? So the question is, are you willing to just take the lessons and move on with your life in the right direction, right? In the right direction. So to understand the inner meanings, the inner significance, and attempt to live the values in our own daily lives. That's what we are supposed to do. Now, last week, I began by looking at the Kauravas, the entire Kaurava clan, the Kuru clan, right? Today, we move on to another, one of my favorite characters. We delve into the great warrior Karna. Karna is a great guy. But sometimes you can be a great person, but if your company, is questionable, like Adi Shankara said, show me your friends and I will tell you your character. It's a questionable loyalty, Karna. Okay, but he was known by many names, and I'll talk about his names shortly. And he was one of the major characters of the Mahabharata. But next to, the main characters like Bhishma Acharya, Dronacharya, Duryodhana, Karna comes next in that line of importance, right? So he's quite important in that sense. And let's look at a bit of history about him, and then his role in the war, and then how he came to find out the truth. And even after finding out the truth, he's still stuck loyal to Duryodhana until the end of his life, right? So we will question whether that sort of behavior is, dharmic or adharmic, right? At the end. He's the son of Surya. The Surya Putra is one of his name, right? And because he was the son of a charioteer, Sutha, he's called Sutha Putra, right? And because Duryodhana made him king of Anga, the state of Anga, right? Then became the state of Banga, then Bangala, now Bangladesh, right? So if you trace the history, right, these things happen in certain places. And of course, in those days, the kingdom was large, huge, it went far out, northeast, southwest. So Anga became Banga. Banga became Bangla and Bangladesh. Well, that is the historic lineage, if you like. So let's talk about how he came to be, right? I mean, we'll talk about his blind gratitude, right? I mean, gratitude is something very, very precious. You cannot forget what other people do for you, being grateful. But to what extent must you go to show that you are grateful, that you are, full of gratitude, right? So there is a question of exercising a certain degree of buddhi, intelligence, and viveka, discrimination, right? And I think I mentioned in the first week about Krishna and Arjuna. Krishna holding the reins, 5 horses, Arjuna sitting in the chariot, the main body, right? 4 wheels holding the chariot. The chariot is upright. On the chariot, there is a flag. In the flag, there is Hanuman, right? So I explained all this. If you want to know more, you go back to my YouTube channel and look at the first introduction session on Bhagavad Gita, where I clearly explain what each one of these means. So for this purpose, since I spoke about Viveka and Buddhi, Krishna holding the reins connect to the 5 horses, right? 5 horses because they represent 5 senses, Pancha Indriyas, Jnana Indriyas, organic senses, senses of perception, right? And then Krishna is the Buddhi, the intelligence. The reins that he is holding in his hands, that is Viveka or discrimination. Arjuna is Manas, mind. So only when intelligence can control the senses with a held discrimination, Viveka, then it is capable of controlling the mind. That is the lesson, right? I've been to many houses and I've seen this, either there's a picture or a portrait or a, copper tooling, all kinds of stuff showing this war scene with that chariot and Krishna looking. So I always ask them, what does this mean? And nobody seems to know, right? So in future, please pass on the message that Arjuna represents a confused mind. Krishna represents intelligence. Only when intelligence is substantiated with a clear control of discrimination of your senses, then you become wise. And when you become wise, certainly you are able to control the mind. And that was the whole premise of the Bhagavad Gita, right? So Karna is as I said, what does Karna? Karna. Okay, he is special because when he was born, the son of Surya, he was born, with what we call a kavacha, an armor, and a kundala, which is, earrings. So he is described as a special baby with special powers. When he was born itself, he was there. But of course, he did not know that he was the son of Surya, and his mother was Kunti Devi. And I'll tell you shortly how Kunti Devi came to, have Karna as her most eldest son. So Karna also means one who likes to hear, right? Shravanam, right? One who likes to hear what other people say about him. And he is moved, he is directed, right? He is instructed by what he hears. So sometimes that is good, sometimes that is bad. Here again, you need to exercise discretion, right? Because not everybody, right? Not everybody will say good things about you. Not everybody will say bad things about you. Once somebody asked me, so brother, how do you deal with this? I said, whatever good people say, you ignore. You tell the mind to ignore. Whatever bad people say, also you ignore. So the mind becomes very trained in just ignoring. But if you accept the good ones and you don't accept the bad ones, then the mind is always in a state of confusion. Is this good? Is this bad? Do I accept? Do I reject? So, but reject everything because nothing is yours anyway, right? Knowledge is not yours. It is given to you, right? You beget it through someone, through a third party, right? Whatever you buy, whatever is belonging to you, it's only temporary. Nothing is yours. But the house is in my name, yeah, for so long as you're alive. After that, it goes to someone. Your car goes to someone. Your assets go to someone. So why? Why this temporary, you are giving so much of permanence? And the permanence is not even temporary in your mind. It's a juxtaposition, this, right? So you can listen, but listen with the view of improving yourself, not feeling good when people say good things and, feeling kind of horrible when people say bad things. And that is the reality. People will say good things, people say bad things, right? Like Karna was a good guy by nature. It's just that he chose to side with Duryodhana because he was very loyal. He was gratitude. He's showing his gratitude. He was grateful. He also, his name, one of his names is Vasusena. Vasusena means one who is born with wealth. He was a golden armor and golden kundalas, kavacha kundalas, kavacha and kundala, right? He is called Surya Putra because the son of Surya. He is called Sutaputra, as I said earlier, the son of the charioteer. He is called Radheya. Radheya was his mother, the one who found him in the river, right? Angaraja, because he was a king of Anga, and I explained to you Anga. He is Dhanavira. Dhanavira means, Dhana. Again, Dhana is one word, but has two contexts. Dhana means wealth. Dhana means charity. It is said in the Vedas that if you want to become wealthy and rich, you want dhana, you have to engage in dhana. Dhana attracts dhana. And you can see in Karna's life, that's why he is called Dhanavira, one who is of an extremely limitless charitable nature, right? He's exceptionally munificent, that means generous, right? He is also called Vijayadhari. Vijayadhari means holder, he is the person who owns a bow called Vijaya. Vijaya Dhanu, it's a bow that is gifted to him by Lord Parashurama. And Parashurama was the sixth avatar. So it's Vijayadhari. Vijaya also means victory, right? And of course, he was very, very victorious. And even his death, like in Ramayana, the death of Vali, right, was somewhat plotted. I spoke about this last week. He's also called Vaikarthana, one who belongs to the solar race, Surya Vamsha, right? And another name is called Vrishan. Vrishan. That means one who is truthful in speech. You see, Karna never lied. He always kept his word and fulfilled his vows, right? So I think in the first week when I began the series, I spoke to you about the different books. So Karna is also mentioned in the Adi Parva, the first book that talks about the Mahabharata, how it started and all of that. So the Kavacha Kundala is what makes his face shine. I mean, he's Surya Putra, and Surya means, tejas, luster, brilliance, and the body armor also in gold. So he was born with wealth like that. Okay, this sets him apart from all the other characters because they were born as normal beings with no gifts that other mortals had on birth, at birth, born with it. But later, of course, again, the ploy was Indra. Indra is who? Indra is Arjuna's father, right? The energy, Indra. He said, we cannot destroy this guy, Karna, right? So I have to go like a poor Brahmin dressed and ask him for alms. See, Karna had the quality or the character that whenever anyone asks him, he will give. He will give. Without thinking, he will give, right? For example, once he was having an oil bath, right? So he was having a gold pot of oil in his left hand, and with his right hand, he was taking and he was applying it all over his body. At that time, a poor beggar came, right? And he was doing it in front of his palace or something, and one poor beggar came, and the guard stopped him. Karna said, let him through, let him through. He came. Karna said, what do you want? He said, I'm a poor Brahmin. I heard you give a lot of dana. Give me something that, can let me have a life. So without thinking, he gave the pot of oil, the gold pot, So he just gave it like that. The man took and he went off. And Karna asked for another pot. When the minister, his chief minister, brought the pot, he said, this is against the moral teachings of a king. Because when you want to give something, and we also practice this, right? Our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, those of you will know, they always say, when you receive with your right hand. When you give with your right hand, right? This is also Rajanidhi, rule and roles of the kings. So the minister questioned his act of giving dhana in his left hand. And this is where I want you to think and I want you to reflect on the fantastic and magnificent response that Karna gave. Karna said, the moment the thought of giving came, I gave. He said, because there is a risk. What if when I'm trying to transfer this pot from my left hand to my right hand, I have a change of mind? Then is no point me giving. You see, when the thought of giving comes, that is the moment you must give for the dhana or charity to bear fruit. If you process and analyze how much should I give, 20, 30, 40, no, that shirt I have, the one without 2 buttons, I'll bring that, let's give it to the beggar. No, that is not dana. That is absolutely not dana. Give what is near and dear to you. That is dana. Your best shirt, give. That is the one. No, that one keep. What about that pants, the zip doesn't work properly? No, that is my favorite pants. Keep it. Oh, no. Attachment. Bhanda. Last week I told you. Bhalastavat kridasaktha, tarunastavat tarunisaktha, vriddhastavat chintasaktha, parame brahmane kopinasaktha. There is no attachment to what you should be attached, but you have attachment to everything else at different stages of life. So Karna teaches you, right? Give charity. The moment you think of giving, give. And don't worry if nobody is looking, because the divine energy knows. And what you give, you get back. I think I mentioned to you, the good actions you do, the good thoughts that you channel out, the good words that you discharge, and the good actions that you perform is like a boomerang. It goes out there and it comes back to you with astounding accuracy. Thoughts, words, and actions. That is the power of charity, right? So the next time you want to give, give. And don't think after you give, what happens? I gave $100 to this charity, Do you think the people would have gotten? No. That's not your problem. What does Krishna say in the Gita? Do your duty. Don't worry about the results. That's my, right? So do your job. Don't do God's job. Do your best. Leave the rest to God. Let go. Let God. So that is Karna. Now, let me talk to you about history a little bit on how Kunti Devi came to bear him, right? Now, Kunti, in her father was a very well-known, what you call, Yadava king. And he had a daughter. Her name was Pritha. Pritha later became Kunti. Now, in one of the periods, sage Durvasa. Durvasa is a great rishi, and is known for his power of giving, varans. Varans means good, and shabam, which is also, he can curse you as well as gift you with. So when he came to stay with the king for a few months, the king asked Pritha to look after his every need. So throughout, King Shurasena, his name is Shurasena. Shurasena told Pritha, later became Kunti, to ensure that his stay was comfortable and he had everything, right? And he was made very, very comfortable and his stay was fine. And when he was leaving, he called her and he said, I am going to give you a mantra because I'm very pleased with your services, right? Whatever you want, for example, if you want a child, you look at this deity. It can be the moon, it can be the water, it can be the air, it can be space, anything. It can be sun. You recite this mantra and that particular energy or deity will come and give you the child. Now, she was about 16, 17 at that time, right? Now, at 16, 17, you become naturally curious about things, when people tell you things and you come to know of things, you are naturally curious. So one day she was out and about and she suddenly thought, oh, Durvasa Rishi gave me this. And then the sun was shining brightly. So she looked at the sun and she said, I want to test this mantra too. Test this. So she recited, looking at the sun, she recited the mantra and Surya Bhagavan appeared and he said, I bless you with a son who will be a great warrior and he will be born with 2 special gifts, right? And Kunti Devi's hand was filled with a little baby like that with the kavasa and the kundala. Kavasa is the body armor and kundala is the earrings, right? So he gives her that. Now she panics. I'm only 16, 17. How can I explain this to anybody, And of course, in the Vedic civilization, before marriage, all this is a complete no-no. So she told one of her servants, the maids, to go and bring a padded basket, and she put her cloth on the baby, covered him, and she put him in the basket. And she was by the palace. There was a river called Ashwanadi. Ashwanadi was, so she put him there. The basket floats, and it meets another river, Charmanvadi, which carries it to Yamuna. Yamuna carried it to Ganga, and of course, Ganga reached, Angadesha, Bangadesha. Okay. Now, at that time, the charioteer of King Dhritarashtra, who was the king of Hastinapura, he was called Adiratha. Adiratha means one who manages the ratha or the chariot, right? Adiratha Nandana, his name was. he found this. He was washing the chariot near the river, and he found this basket, and he took it back to, his wife, Radheya, and they left the child. So they took him in. And because he was born with gold and the silk shawl that his mother put on him, they called him Vasusena, one who is born with wealth, right? And of course, later, Kunti was married to Pandu, and she begot, Yudhishthira from Dharmaraja, Yamadharma, Bhima from Vayu, Arjuna from Indra, and then, of course, Madri, who was second wife to Pandu, she was taught this mantra by Kunti, and she begot Nakula and Sahadeva through the Ashwini Kumaras, father of Nakula and Sahadeva. So, the early days, Dhritarashtra came to know that, his main charioteer found this baby, and he was playing in the palace, with the Kauravas, with the Pandavas, but from early age, Duryodhana took a keen liking to this guy. So they grew up together. Some parts of the life they were together. Now, when he was a teenager, right, his parents told him, Nandana and Radhaya told him that he was found floating in a river in a basket, and they adopted him, right? Now, this knowledge affected Karna because he felt ashamed that he was abandoned at birth, and he started questioning his worth, his self-worth, his self-identity, and his sense of mind. Ever since that time, he was told, was, somewhat inferior complexity set in, So the question is today, should you tell an adopted child that they were adopted? Or should you keep that from them, forever and ever and ever? So the way I would answer this is put yourself in that position of the child. Would you want to know that information? Is it right for you to know that information? Is it your legitimate right to know that information? And now you put yourself in the position of the people with that information, and you can decide whether you want to do or not, right? But the Vedas, Rig Veda says, Satyam Vadha, always speak the truth, Dharmam Chara, do the right thing, righteous action. So what the parents did in this context is the right thing to do, right? Remember, your job as a parent or as parents is caretaker. Caretaker. Not I do all this for you, I work hard, I pay for your education, you are now a doctor, lawyer, accountant, whatever you are, now you have to look after me. I say, do your duty, and God will look after the rest. You've done your duty properly and you brought them up properly, you brought them up righteously, they will do the right thing. That's not in your hands. Right? So remember, you are caretakers, you are gardeners tending to the garden and to every plant in the garden. Right? So just as the gardener would tend to the soil, would make sure there's enough water, food, all these vitamins, everything to make sure the plant grows, that is it. Once the plant grows in the right way, it is nurtured properly, then it will give the relevant, oxygen, the relevant fruit, the relevant flower, the relevant, everything it will give. What it's meant to do, it will do. Right? So anyway, he also attends school in Hastinapura. And of course, he was allowed by special permission by Duryodhana and by King Dhritarashtra, who told Drona, take him in and also teach him his, but he was the son of a charioteer. Nobody knows his history, right? Even he didn't know his history. So the question is, sometimes in life, whatever you're meant to get, you will get. If not through your own initiatives or your efforts, someone else will make it happen to you. You understand? Because he's a warrior. He's a Kshatriya. He's the eldest of the Pandavas. So he still got to go to the Gurukula and learn from the great Dronacharya, right? So Dronacharya taught him a lot of things, and he recognized the quality of this warrior caliber that Karna had possessed. right? So he also taught him the Brahmastra, one that can destroy. And I think I mentioned to you in the second week when I spoke about astras and weapons, the dot, the destroying mantra and also the protecting mantras, astras. Okay. Now, Karna was not happy that he learned enough. He wanted to learn more and more and more. Dronacharya said, "This is all I have. If you want, you can go to Lord Parashurama. He's over here. But he only teaches Brahmins. He doesn't teach Kshatriyas. If he knows you're a Kshatriya, he won't." So Karna goes to his Gurukula, and with some persuasion, he got in. But Parashurama only asked him one thing: "Are you a Brahmin?" He said, "Yes, I am." I said, "Okay, come." See, truth had so much of value those days, right? Now, of course, he learns from Parashurama all the other, martial arts, all the other astras. So he got fantastic weapons from different people. I'll tell you that shortly, right? But when he was going, and the story goes that one day Parashurama said, "I'm feeling a little sleepy. Come and sit. I'll put my head on your lap," right? So Karna, of course, Guru Seva, Guru Seva. Parashurama was sleeping on his lap, and at time that there's a bee that came and stung him. Now, bee sting means you'll be very restless, isn't it? But Karna, because he was Kshatriya, he's a warrior, he can withstand pain, right? But the sound of the bee and the smell of the blood, that as a result of the bee sting, blood came out, touched the ears and the nose of Parashurama, and he got up and he saw Karna's leg was stung and it was bleeding. The white dhoti was red. And he said, "What happened?" He said, "No, bee stung me, but I didn't want to disturb your sleep." He said, "You are not a Brahmin because only a Kshatriya can withstand such pain. Now you tell me the truth before I shabda you, Then Karna said, "Yes, I am not a Brahmin. I'm a Kshatriya actually, but I wanted to learn from you so much that, At that time, Parashurama said, when you want to use this mantra, the most potent one, you will forget how to recite it. And I told you, astras is all mantric. I told you 3 ways, yantra, tantra, and mantra, right? Mantra is astra. So he will forget. And indeed, in the war, when he wants to fire this, he forgets it. So Guru's blessings is the point I want to make here. Always do the right thing to attract or invoke the Guru's blessings, right? And at the Gurukula, of course, everybody was trying to decide who was better, and they were equal peers. I'm talking about Karna and Arjuna. That's why that animosity always was there. And Karna always had to prove something because he was so, inferior in his thinking. So he always wanted to go that extra mile, do the extra thing, become someone up there. So he's held in equal esteem. But of course, everybody else knew. All the Kaurava princes and all the Pandava princes knew that he is but the son of a poor charioteer's son. So they rejected him, they ridiculed him, they bullied him, all of that. Bullying is not a recent concept. It goes back, right? So the question is, that kind of growth environment affected Karna's sense of confidence. And he always wanted to side with someone who recognized him for what he was. And that was Duryodhana, right? So he, despite all that, he stayed firm and he became more closer to the Kaurava princes because the Pandava princes were also making fun of him. But Duryodhana told all his brothers, "I don't want any of you to make fun of him. He's one of us." Okay, so his brothers stopped making fun, but the Pandava brothers, especially Bhima and Arjuna, were making fun of him all the time. Okay. Now, one thing here, again, this is your, what do you call it? Kula Sampradaya, we call it, right? That means something that you should be doing, that even unconsciously you can be doing because that is innate in you, right? So every day he came, Karna used to go to the Ganga and offer Surya Vandanam to Surya, Lord Surya, and he used to pray to the sun god. Unknowingly, he was praying to his father every day in doing the, Jala mantra, you praying to the sun. You can do that as well, looking at the sun. Every day you can recite the Gayatri mantra, right? The morning. Gayatri mantra should be recited at 8 in the morning. And obviously around midday when the sun is at its axis, and at the sunset time, 8 times, 8 times, 8 times, 24 times, because the Gayatri has got 24 aksharas, right? And each day has got 24 hours. So we divided 8, 8, 8. That 8, 8, 8 also represents the three, right? Gunas, Raja Guna, Satya Guna, and Sattvic Guna, and Tamo Guna, right? So he was doing Surya Vandanam every day. He was praying, right? So because I told you his mindset was he's always craving for respect, for love, for affection, for, to be held in a state of grandeur. That is Karna's mindset. So because remember I said his name also one who likes to listen what other people say to him. So he's overly sensitive to criticism. And so he has to balance that by showing he's actually very good at this, very good at that. So in some cases, he, actually brags about his capabilities, martial arts skills, no. But the balance, the other flip side of the coin is he's also very thoughtful and very dharmic in his, critical moments in certain times. Let's talk about his relationship with Duryodhana, right? Of course, he's learning, right? When he meets Karna, Karna meets Duryodhana during the Gurukula time in Hastinapura, during the archery lesson. Karna is a great archer, as is Arjuna. And I remember telling you about Ekalavya, right? Who was, if he was allowed, he would have been far superior to Karna and Arjuna. But of course, that didn't happen because Dronacharya had the vision, right, of saying, no, this guy is far too good and he will beat both my students, right? So he asked for the finger, and that's the end of Ekalavya. So they begin, the Duryodhana was not into archery. He could do it, but he was not a master of archery. He was into mace fighting. It's called Gada Yuddha. Gadam, one that Vishnu holds. Vishnu holds a Gadam on his bottom left hand, always, right? And he holds it with that touching the ground because he is one who is always, Shanta Devata. You will never see an agoric form of Vishnu, whereas you can see agoric forms of Shiva. Shiva is fierce energy, Shakti, Shiva. It's down because he's saying, I am holding it down. Don't let me lift up. Because when I lift it, you will be down. So, Duryodhana could see Karna's potential because he didn't like the Pandavas. Because the Pandavas were always getting, compliments and all of that. I told you this last week. So it grew. From childhood, it grew. And from childhood, he nurtured a distinct hateness for them, spitefulness, And so he befriended Karna, thinking, only this fellow can beat Arjuna, if anything. So let us, diminish the quality of the Pandavas' warrior caliber by befriending Karna, right? So again, in a modern day, you have to query the genuineness of people wanting to do certain things for you, or wanting to know you, or you wanting to know people, you wanting to do certain things for people. Why, right? That why is very important. That is the application in today's life, right? So they went to, Draupadi's Swayamvara. That's how they used to get married in the early days, right? They used to go for Swayamvaras. Now, only princes and kings of nations can come and participate in the Swayamvara. Of course, Karna was, a warrior of stature. And he also came and, they told him, you're not a king, nor are you a prince. You are but a son of a charioteer. So you cannot participate in this. At that point in time, Duryodhana got up and he says, he may be Arajna. Arajna means not a king. Arajna as is Raja. Arajna. So I am anointing him as the king of my Anga state. Anga Desha Raja. So he became the king of Angas. Having got the stature of a king, he was then allowed to participate. And of course, everybody was defeated. The last two people were just Karna and Arjuna. And of course, you know the end of the story. Arjuna won. He um, he got to marry Draupadi, and he went back home happily. And he told his mother, "Look what I brought for you." She said, "Whatever you brought, share it with your brothers." And that was, the story. It is so simple and poignant, yet, it has been given so many different variations and interpretations. What you should know is she is born of fire. So she is beyond pollution. She cannot be polluted in any way. And she, according to the original almanac, she spends 1 year with each of the Pandava brothers. And at the end of every year, she has a Agni Suchi. That means she bathes in the fire that she came out from in order to purify herself. Fire, as I said to you, is one of the purest forms in the Hindu Sampradaya. We use fire for everything. Even Arati we take as fire. The fire represents wisdom or jnana. Let the wisdom or jnana, and that's why we put it on our head. Technically, you should put it on your head, put it on your face, so that your face gets the same sort of brightness and your mind gets that jnana. That is how you should. And fire, you can see from a distance, you can take that energy. You don't actually have to touch it. But if you go to temples, what happens? Everybody will rush to touch it. And is everybody touching that fire with the same intensity of genuine thoughts? No. So what you will touch at the end of the day, at the back of the crowd, is everybody has put some energy in there. So you just look at a distance, and the first time they show it inside the Mulasthanam, the Garbhagraha, right? Or the Sanctum Sanctorium, that's where you just absorb the light straight into your Agnya Chakra. That's it. And then you let it spread. You don't have to physically touch. You see, the art of Hindu worship in temples is you do not touch anything. Do not touch anything, because everything is energy based, right? Don't touch anything. Just use your mind. Just use your mind. The more you put inside your mind this agnic energy, this divine fire, this light of brilliance and tejas, right? You see the difference, right? So temple worship has become so corrupted these days. Corrupted means all bad practices, right? There's no silence in the temple, because only silence is the language of the gods, right? Only in the sound of silence can you communicate with God. But you go to the Hindu temples, they are the most noisiest place, right? They are most noisiest place. How are you going to pray with all this noise? The priests are reciting mantras in front and so much of noise. People come there as a social hub point for socializing, gathering. Hey, that party you are going at tomorrow, next day, whatever. Oh, you know what happened to that fellow? And this is what happens. So one, you are not praying. Number two, you're not listening to all the chantings that is happening. And number three, you are not absorbing the energy that is created by those chantings. Can you imagine? Just imagine this, right? You walk into a temple, it's absolutely silent. You can hear the sound of the bell. Vibration. Right? You can hear the sound of the mantras being chanted by the priest. Absorb in these energies in the temple. That's what you're meant to do. Sit for a while and meditate. Why are all the garbhagahas raised? And when you walk, your nabi, your navel, is at the base of where the gods are seated or placed in the garbhagriha, because nabi is where your Muladhara chakra is, and it is directly proportionate to the garbhagriha inside where the god is based. So when you go around, you are actually absorbing the energy, the vibration. Does this really happen in our temples? No. No. Right? So sit in your house and pray in your mind. If you really want to pray, you want to go and meet friends and, talk about all kinds of things, then go to temple. So anyway, Duryodhana came and saved Karna at a time when he was going to be fantastically embarrassed, humiliated. He was made a king. He was given a stature. He was given a status. And that is the turning point of Karna. Complete servitude to Duryodhana. Some of the things Duryodhana did, Karna never agreed. He was always thinking, no, this is not right. But he never questioned his best friend. He said, I have promised to serve you. I will serve you. See, here, Karna was an intelligent fellow because he says, as long as I am not doing something, I am just serving him as a soldier, right? The soldier follows the order of the commander follows the order of the king, correct? So in that same way, Karna's mind was that way aligned. He said, whatever Duryodhana does, the karma is his, right? My karma is, I said I will support him in war and whatever, and that's what I will do, right? So he was always there at Duryodhana's beck and call. Duryodhana was using it, of course, to his own benefit, and with his hatred for the Pandavas, and of course, if you go to the climax scene in the war, or in the court of Dhritarashtra, where the the dice thing has happened. So this was like the final attempt to trounce the Pandavas, right? First, he tried to kill Bhima when he was a child. He failed. Then he built them a palace, like a palace, set it on fire. That was how they escaped. And then one or two other things he did to try to kill them. That didn't work. So finally, with his uncle Shakuni, he came up with this plan. And of course, they came. And Yudhishthira, being a dharmic, he says this is Rajanidhi. When one king calls, another king cannot refuse. Right? Of course, remember, I said they had their own kingdom called Indraprastha, which from a barren land, they turned it into one of the most illustrious palaces and beautiful places, green and luster was there. So they came, and of course, he lost. And of course, the climax was, of course, Duryodhana telling Dushasana, bring the Dashi Draupadi and derobe her, right? So, of course, there were lots of things. They called her all kinds of names. And one of the stories says that Karna told Duryodhana to ask her to sit on his lap. And, that is why Bhima said, you put Draupadi on your lap, on your thighs. You showed your thighs to her and say, come and sit here, you Dashi. I will get you. And that is how he dies. Right? Duryodhana actually dies because he was hit on his thighs by Bhima. Okay. And many stories that say Arjuna killed Duryodhana. No. It is Bhima. Bhima actually killed, 90% of the Kauravas. Right? One or two was killed by Arjuna and Nakula, Sahadeva, and Yudhishthira. But Bhima destroyed the entire 90% of the Kauravas. Then, of course, because Karna said to Duryodhana, keep Draupadi on your thighs, Karna became an arch enemy of the Pandava brothers, especially Bhima and especially Arjuna, right? So Karna, of course, in helping Duryodhana expand his kingdom, he had many, many victories, right? He was such a skilled and valiant warrior, and he achieved a lot of notable victories in war, and he expanded Duryodhana's kingdom, right? He defeated Jarasandha, the powerful king of Magadha, for example, and he played a key role in all his Duryodhana's military campaigns. And one of the things that he was asked to do, Karna, that he wanted to do is Dronacharya had, openly asked his students, both the Pandavas and the Kauravas, to go and catch King Drupada. Drupada was actually his friend, who was a very successful king. And he had told Dronacharya, when Dronacharya was a poor peasant, Brahmin peasant, come to my kingdom when you want, any help. I will give you the help. They both were studying in the Gurukula at the same time. Who? Dronacharya and Drupada. Drupada is Draupadi's father, right? And Drishtadyumna's father as well. But when Dronacharya went to ask, he was humiliated by the king. He said, what right you have to come here and ask me to give you, things from my kingdom? So he felt very, very humiliated. So now he wanted to take revenge on Drupada. He told his students, Pandavas and Kauravas, go and catch him and bring him back. And it was Arjuna. Again, there was a battle, and somehow things happened in a way that Arjuna was ultimately succeeded in capturing Drupada, and he brought him before Dronacharya. And of course, they had words, and then Dronacharya said, give him. This defeat itself is enough humiliation for this king, right? So Karna was always there, part and parcel of Duryodhana's victory, right? Now, of course, the more hostile Duryodhana became with the Pandavas, Karna's relationship also particularly became hostile with the Pandavas, because he clearly took his side, right? And of course, as a result of the dice game and them becoming, servants of the Kauravas, finally it was agreed that, they would serve 12 years in prison. And then the 13th year, they should be serving us, 13th year of incognito. That means they can't be seen anywhere. If they are seen and discovered by someone in the 13th year, that 12th year will repeat again. So technically, it was a plot devised by Shakuni and Duryodhana to completely erase them from the kingdom so that they can go and, rule Indraprastha and so on and so forth, right? So this hostility grew because Bhima was always making fun of Arjuna, saying, you are Suttaputra, you are son of a charioteer, don't come and, and of course, when they were called to the Indraprastha, before the animosity grew, they called all the kings, of course, they called Duryodhana and all of them. When Duryodhana fell and Karna went to lift him, it is said that, people laughed at them, including Draupadi. And of course, Bhima said, of course, you're always at the feet of Duryodhana. That is your job as the son of a charioteer. That's why you're supposed to serve. And of course, they never liked each other. Karna never liked Draupadi because of what she said. And he never liked Bhima, what she said as well. That is why at the court, Karna told Duryodhana, said, take and put on your lap. She now belongs to you. So this escalation of hostility grew and grew and grew, until the war. Now let's talk about the Kurukshetra war. And because Karna was fantastically gifted with a lot of astras, and he was a superb, skilled warrior, right? Now, there are two meetings that took place during the war. And it is important for you to understand what is the significance of these two meetings, right? The first meeting is with Krishna. And Krishna actually stops, the same thing he did with Arjuna on the first day. He stopped the war, and only Arjuna and Krishna was there in the scene, and Krishna showed him who he is by talking to him, right? For that moment, and then boom. After that, everything came back. He did the same thing, right, to two other people. And this thing is not very well stated in many books, but the original almanacs say that, right? I had the good fortune of going to Kashi and talking to some of the professors in the Kashi University, the first Hindu Sanskrit university in the whole world, university in Kashi, right? In talking, they were sharing things. And you have to be a student there in order to use the library, right? And many years ago, I've done some remote research, but not been there as a student. I would love to go there and become a student, at least, for 2-3 years, so I can really look at the original almanacs, the ones that have been salvaged and have been saved, obviously. So two meetings. Krishna shows himself to Arjuna. He shows himself to Bhishmacharya. He shows himself to Vidura, and he shows himself to Karna. So these meetings actually took place. So when Krishna says, look, this is me, That is you, Jivatma, Paramatma. But you are a great fellow because you are the son of Surya. You are Surya Putra, and your biological mother is Kunti Devi, and the Pandavas are your younger brothers. So he knew that, right? The second meeting, when Kunti Devi comes to see him, because Krishna said, I have done my part, now you have to go and do your part. Go and see Karna in his camp and tell him what happened, why it happened, and ask him what you want to ask him. You see, Krishna is very clever here. He never said, go and ask him not to kill Arjuna. Go and ask him what you want to ask him, he said. Right? So, of course, she met him and she explained everything, and that emotional moment was there. And she asked him, will you promise me something? He said, you're my mother. You're my biological mother, but my real mother is Radheya, because she's the one who brought me up. So Karna also represents his gratitude. His gratitude is immense. I mean, that's the thing that is strikingly attractive to me, right? When his biological mother comes and says, I am your actual mother, she's Kunti Devi, and the Pandavas have, that moment he could have said, okay, to Duryodhana and said, bye, my friend, I'm going to be fighting by my brother's sides. I'm not going to be fighting against them. But no, he said, no, I've given my word. I will stand by you throughout. Then his mother says, can you not use your astra more than once? Karna said, okay. Because Karna's confidence was huge. He said, I don't need to use it twice. Once is more than enough. I will get my target. And true enough, he only used his astras once and he got, right? See, what I want to mention here is when Karna meets Krishna, Krishna starts by completely raising him up, by, complimenting him. And Karna felt, wow, felt so good. And then Krishna says, this is what you should not have done. So Krishna is actually teaching us the art of communication. At your place of work, you may have been subject to feedbacks and, performance appraisals in your place of work, right? And the modern communication techniques that are taught to the people who appraise you or who give you feedback on your work and all that is, first say positive things, then talk about things that they can improve. So you say the negative things as points for improvement. Don't say negative. Krishna was already doing it that time. So that's a point for you to note. Again, a point to inculcate in if you want to say something bad about somebody, try and say two good things to them. Then the bad thing won't have that same effect. And the way you can say a bad thing, you can say it also in a good way. So he then tells Karna, I have given you the facts. You now have to take on board and decide what you want to do. He says, yes, Krishna, thank you for, enlightening me. But my path is clear. I will be with Duryodhana because I've given him my word. Right? So that is something, steadfast, devotion should not be colored by new kinds of attachments or new kinds of revelations that comes, right? And he also tells his mother, I will, as I promised you, I will not use it more than once. And he never used it more than once. The first time he used, Krishna, put his feet, pressed a little bit, had a bit of pressure and the chariot went a little bit down. So the first astra that he sent, Pashupata astra, hit Arjuna's crown and he escaped. Second time when he wanted to use the what we call Vishnu astra, he forgot the mantras like Parashurama said, right? Anyway, that's how, Karna, he discovered who his real mother was, but he never for once forsook, Radheya and Adhiratha Nandana as the mother and father. And of course, he never let his sense of loyalty waver. in a world today that we live in, our sense of loyalty changes every day. Today we are one party, tomorrow we are next party, next day we support this brother, next day we don't talk to that sister. Every day this changes. So Karna teaches us, once you have that, it should be unwavering, right? Because that is you. You don't worry about what other people do. What you do is important, right? So the value of words and promise is what Karna teaches us, right? He meets, of course, his biological mother tells him the story of how when she was young, she was silly, she was foolish. She tried to test Durvasa's gift of mantra. She looked at the sun and he was born with Kavasa and Kundala and all the stories. She was young, she didn't know what to do, so she set him free. And then, of course, from that, because Karna still had her shawl that she put, the golden silk shawl. Because when she came to see him, he always had that little basket that he was found in. He always had that with him. He grew up with that. And, he said, is this the basket you sent me? And she opened and said, is there a shawl? I put a shawl on you. My shawl that I put on you. He said, yes. Many a days I have slept with the shawl, thinking of who my mother is, So he did not build an attachment towards Kunti. He did not build an attachment towards the Pandava brothers, even after knowing that she was the biological mother. And of course, they were his brothers, So he was asked not to use his Pashpatastra, Nagastra more than once. And he promises, okay, I won't use this more than once, So the quality of giving, even, before the war, he was giving. During the war also, he was giving. Giving means boons, boons. See, there are 3 danas that you need to do in your lifetime. That means each one of us have to do 3 types of danas. One is annadhana, right? Second is vastradhana. And the third is vidyadana, right? That means giving, books, writing materials, everything for somebody's vidya, or to a school, to a local, anath ashram, giving clothes to the poor, clothes that you will wear. That is the type of clothes you should give, not clothes that you want to discard. They have no value. I mean, the receiver will take whatever you give, but the giving has no value. Let me be very clear about that. Okay. If you're going to give what is near and dear to you, what you yourself will wear, what you yourself will eat, what you yourself will use to read, write, and whatever. That is what you should give, right? So Karna was doing this all the time. So the giving, I told you the story of the golden bowl of oil. He never had any second thoughts, and thought of giving came, he gave. Now, the important day comes, I think it was the 15th or the 16th day. Surya comes before Karna and he says, my son, I want to warn you, Indra is going to come in the form of a poor peasant, right, in disguise, and he's going to ask you to give your kavasa and your kundala. So early morning, I told you every morning he does, Surya Vandana. That time Indra comes. He already knows, but he never said no to anyone who comes and asks him for things, But he told Indra, he said, Indra, you could come in your real form and ask me, I would still give you. There is no need for this disguise. So Indra was shocked. He said, oh, well, he took off his, something that was with him from birth. He gave it. He actually cut his skin off and gave it to him. And of course, he took his, kundala also and gave it to him. So that is the quality of giving, right? As a result of that, see, Indra came to take something from him, right? But because Karna never had an ounce of doubt that he wanted to give, Indra felt obliged to give him something. So Indra gave him something called Indrastra. You see the balance of dharma here. He gave his most powerful thing, and in return, he got a powerful thing back called Indrastra. And Indra then shows himself. He said, okay, And he gives him this. He said, thank you for giving me what you were born with. That is your power, verily your power. That is what makes you invincible. Now that you've given it to me, I must tell you that you're no longer invincible. But because you gave it with such a free heart, I am going to give you my Indrastra, which he did not even give his son, Arjuna, right? So the point here for you is when you do something good without second thoughts, with complete, volition, free willingness, you will be gifted. That is the law of dharma, adhidharma. Yatho dharma, tato Krishna, yato Krishna, tato jayam. When you do dharmic acts, Krishna is present, and where Krishna is present, there is only victory, right? So Karna says, thank you for this. He said, Indra gave it to him and said, use this as a reserve. When you have no other things and you want to go complete annihilation, you use Indra Astra, right? So he wants to kill Arjuna with this Indra Astra. Karna already planned, okay, I'll save this for Arjuna, kill him, right? So by the 13th day, 14th day, many on the side of the Pandavas were killed, except the 5 brothers. And many on the side of the Kauravas, almost, 80, 90 brothers had died. So only a few were left. So on the 14th day, right, of course, they had already killed Abhimanyu, Arjuna's son, before that, right? Abhimanyu is also a great character, right? But he's a Upa Pandava, right? He's not the main Pandavas, which is why I've not really focused on him. But he's a great, great, great character. And Arjuna took revenge for Abhimanyu's death on the 14th day. And Bhima's son, Gatotkacha, also came and wreaked havoc on the Kaurava battalions. And Gatotkacha was going on a killing spree. Then Duryodhana calls him and he says, look, you told me Indra came. Because when Duryodhana saw him after that, he says, where's your Kavacha and where's your Kundala? So Karna told him what happened. But Karna also told him, he's given me the Indrastra. I'm going to kill Arjuna with it. So Duryodhana called him, he says, don't wait to use that on Arjuna. Look, this Gatotkacha, this Bhima's son is completely annihilating our armies. Use it to kill Gatotkacha. Gatotkacha was Bhima's son. Bhima's union with an Agori in the jungle during their Vanavasa. Gatotkacha. Very powerful fellow, right? So Karna had no choice. Since Duryodhana said, use the Indrastra, he used the Indrastra to kill Gatotkacha. So Karna thus saved the remaining soldiers in the Kaurava camp. And of course, Duryodhana was very happy, right? So he did not intentfully use it for his main intention of wanting to kill Arjuna. He, in fact, listened to Duryodhana and did. So sometimes you have to exercise discretion, right? And of course, one by one died. When Drona died, Duryodhana made Shalya, King Shalya, as the commander-in-chief. And then, of course, he subsequently asked Shalya to become the charioteer and made Karna the commander-in-chief. Okay, Senapati, commander of all his forces. But Karna and Shalya could not see face to face, could not see eye to eye, and they had many quarrels. And at one point, Shalya said, I'm not going to take orders from you. I'm leaving your chariot and you go. That is the time when Karna actually steps down from the chariot to lift the wheel that was stuck in the mud. And that's the time Krishna tells Arjuna, now shoot him. He says, but he doesn't have any weapon on him. And Krishna says, that is not your problem. Shoot. And that's the time, So the point here is, if Shalya and Karna had worked together, right, having the same mindset, having the same understanding, working for the common purpose of what they were doing in the war, things would have been a bit different. So what I want to talk about here is the quality of teamwork and the quality of understanding, right? As a team, TEAM. Together, everyone achieves more. Team, right? So in that time itself, you're saying if you don't have teamwork, you will not going to be successful. And true enough, right? So Karna saw his death through this. So when he was there, trying to, lift his. And Arjuna says, okay, just follow the Krishna. Because Krishna is intelligence, Arjuna is the mind. The mind must always give in to the intelligence, right? It's not for you to process, right? So Karna was killed at that point in time. And even there, Indra comes back to him, and he says, can you give me something? Karna says, I'm on my deathbed. What do you want? And Indra did this for a reason, yeah. Indra knew with all the punyas that Karna had accumulated by his dana, his dana vijay, his dana, his gift of charity. That's my immense amount of punyas he had accumulated by the giving. And Indra knew, right, that Karna would not ascend to Surya Loka because he will have to enjoy all the fruits of his good actions. So what does Indra do? You see, when you are deserving of something, the gods will come in some form to give you that, right? When you're not deserving of something, the same energies will come to take it off you or to put some obstacles in your path, right? So accept things as divine will and leave that, surrender that to them so that they can also, the hand that heals is the hand that cuts. So Karna says, what can I give you? And Indra says, give me all the punya phala. Punya phala, papa phala. Punya means good deeds, papa means bad deeds. He says, give me all the consequences of all the good actions that you have performed until now. Okay, take all my punyas. I give them to you. So basically, he had nothing now. So when his life left him, he rose straight to Surya Loka, where his father was waiting. So he merged with the sun, basically, right? But let's look at, the dharma and ethics. And one of the things that I want to say is, Karna was more into doing Vastra Dana and Vidya Dana, and he did not do enough Annadana. That is why there comes a time in the Hindu calendar during September, October time, where it's called the Mahalaya Paksha or Pitru Paksha. And he never really offered, although he was praying, but he was praying unknowingly, unconsciously. So in the 16 days of the Mahalaya Paksha, which leads to Mahalaya Amavasya or Sarvalaya Amavasya, this 16 days, Karna is said to come back in some form to Kashi, where he engages in doing Pitru Darpanam, all those kind of things, and also giving danas. Okay. So this 16 days is very important, right? Normally it is observed by many people, me including, right? So he comes back and he gives Annadana. So Annadana is very, very important. If you can't do the other two, at least give Annadana and give to people who cannot afford, right? Not throw a party, invite all the well-doing people and then feeding them. That is not Dana, okay? So that is the dharma, that the ethics of giving Annadana, right? Now you must also look at some of the weapons. So Karna teaches that dharma, that ethics, which is why I mentioned that point. Karna's celestial weapons, he had the Vijayastra. Then he had something called the Vasavi Shakti, which is, in other words, the Indrastra. Then he had the Brahmastra, right? He also had the Naga Astra and the Naga Pasha Astra. So all these were given to him by, different, like for example, Vijaya bow was given to Parashurama, and he was given, the Gandiva bow by Lord Shiva, and he was given the Vasavi Shakti or the Indra Astra by Indra. He was given the Brahmastra taught by Dronacharya, and Brahma also gave him the Naga Astra and the Naga Pasha. So like that, there's many things. So what can we learn from Karna? Right? He is a flawed hero, right? But his dharmic sense of duty, devotion, loyalty, honesty, those are the kind of things that we have to take and focus. He does the right thing, dharma, right? So there has to be a balance, right? What else can we learn from Karna? When his mother came and told him, he said, okay, I forgive you. I accept that I am who you say I am. And she's crying inconsolably, right? So he says, don't worry, I've forgiven you. So the quality of acceptance and the quality of forgiveness is what we should be learning. This is the key lessons, right? So no need to talk about Karna in that sense. So what has Karna taught us? That is what we have to take and put into our lives. You understand? So that is Karna. Short. It's sometimes it is not, the time is not enough for me. Let's put it that way, right? Sometimes I talk for 1 hour, 10 minutes, or 1 hour, 15 minutes, or 1 hour. The time is not enough for me to give you the whole story. So I have to take all the juice, extract the core, and then give you the core, right? So you can build up this knowledge on your own. But next week, we are going to be looking at another great character called Ashwatthama. You all know. In fact, recently there was a Bollywood movie, right? Talking about Ashwatthama. And I think Amitabh Bachchan played the role of Ashwatthama. So next week, I am going to be talking to you about Ashwatthama. Anyada sharanam nasti tvameva sharanam mamaha tasmat karunya bhavena raksha raksha mahadeva. Sai Ram.